appreciation numbers was another reason that people had a tremendous sense of urgency to close on any property that they could as quickly as possible, take advantage of the easy financing, and they felt certain they would make money.
I think it's probably, from my perspective, a combination of the two. And Susan, you alluded to it. The real estate values were just climbing at an alarming rate, higher and higher and higher and higher. And everybody back then was saying, this bubble has to burst somewhere along the way. It just can't keep going. And that, with the issue with the banks, I think, put us where we are today. Now, are the sellers and the buyers in the same boat? Or can we look at them differently? Let's look at the sellers in this down market. What's their life like trying to sell a house?
Well, you know, it's hard to generalize, Mark, because really, I think it really depends on a matter of expectations and possibly how long the sellers own the home. And so, you know, we have a seller today who we met with who's been in their house for 44 years. And along the way, they didn't take the equity out through cash out refinances or anything like that. So, you know, what they paid for the house and what they'll be selling the house for. That seller, their expectations are probably going to be met, and it's a completely different situation than another seller who may have purchased the house just 3 years ago and maybe lost the job.
Right. The first person you described started out with a house for. $150,000. It's now worth $500,000.
It's actually much more dramatic. This seller, in particular, paid maybe $35,000, and the house will sell for probably in excess of $600,000. Now, the truth is that house may have sold for $800,000, you know, 24, 36 months ago, and so that particular seller is disappointed. So. Your question, you know, what's it like to be a seller today? I think that this is a market, to be very honest with you, Mark, that if you don't need to sell and you don't have a strong desire to relocate or trade up to a larger house, there really it's not the market for sellers who don't need to sell the home.
Now, when you think about it, some people sell houses and then buy another one, right? So should a seller sell their house low and then buy another house low, right? I mean, they may get $200,000 less on the sale, but they're going to buy a house for $200,000 less as well. And mortgage rates are very low right now. Wouldn't they want to do that?
I think that really depends on each individual, myself, because you know, if you lose a lot of equity, if you're one of those people who put a big deposit down on your house, are you losing a lot of that cash? If you finance most of it and it's just been financed and you're not losing cash out of your own pocket, I think that's probably a good idea. But if you're some of these people back in the 2004, 2005 that they were putting 35 and 40% down, and now they've like bought the equity back out of it, and now they don't have that money in their pocket, and if they sell it, they're going to lose that equity that they had put in. I don't think now is the time to sell.
What about people who rent their homes, all right, and then buy a house on the low end? Have you seen any of that?
I've actually seen a lot of it. And I don't advocate renting your house in order to buy, because then you create a second issue for yourself. What happens if you get a bad paying tenant? Now you have two mortgages.
Right.
Unless you know that that person is guaranteed to pay that rent, you're taking on a big gamble of having to carry two mortgages.
Dominic, do you see a lot of that going on?
Well, no question. And if I could just back up and on the seller who sells to buy another house, another factor to consider is, you know, where it's difficult, Mark, right now is that if you're selling your house and you want to scale down, which many sellers want to do, it's difficult to buy down right now because you're selling your house that it's a larger asset that's taken a more significant hit in its value and wanting to buy smaller, and that happens to be the toughest part of the market, is the higher end part of the market. So it's very difficult for sellers to sell and scale down right now. But if you're looking to, you've been in your house for a while and you're in position to sell your house and you're looking to buy a larger house or a house at a higher value, if you do the math, it's really a pretty good time to trade up, all the factors being you know, in place. In terms of rentals, without question, Mark, we have a much greater rental activity for a number of reasons. Sellers who bought the property as an investment property with the thinking that they would sell that property and haven't been able to find a buyer for it, deciding to rent those properties. there's a big, much larger increase in tenants who have decided that they want to wait and not buy right now. And you have to say, we talked about easy financing. Well, that easy financing has gone away in many ways, and so there are fewer people who can qualify for a mortgage right away.
Well, let's switch over to the buyer side now.
Sure.
We were primarily talking about the seller. What's the world like for buyers in this down market? Susan.
Oh,
Dominic.
you know, I would say that I think back to Susan's earlier comments about the distressed sales. You know, buyers today have a completely different mentality, and rightfully so, than they did 3 years ago. Buyers today are looking for a good deal. That's what motivates buyers today, and I don't think that's just housing, by the way.
Right.
I think if you look across many sectors of the economy, but certainly in housing, the buyers out there today want to know they've got a good deal, and so there's certainly still a very healthy supply of homes, or unhealthy depending how you look at it, but from a buyer's perspective, a healthy supply of homes. And so buyers are doing a lot of shopping, a lot of comparison shopping, and they're motivated by the sense of a good deal. And so if you qualify for a mortgage, and many people still qualify for a mortgage, Mark, in Morris, Essex, and Sussex counties, in my region, for example, we sold probably on a buyer-controlled sale basis 400 home buyers' homes in the last 30 days. So many people are still qualifying for mortgages. But if you do qualify for a mortgage and feel secure in your employment, this is probably a pretty good time to be a buyer.
Would you say it's a buyer's market?
There's no question.
It's probably the best buyer's market that's been around for a while.
However you're going to define buyer's market,
Yeah.
I would have to think these conditions are it.
Yeah, especially now that mortgage rates are down. Although the banks have been a little bit afraid to lend money, but as you said, if you qualify, it's a real buyer's market out there. Susan, have you seen? You're dealing with the clients, the buyers and the sellers, at that level.
I think if you get the smart buyer who's financially savvy, it's a fantastic buyer's world because the rates are low. If they're not in a hurry to buy, there's a lot of distressed, and when I say distressed, I mean foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, that if they don't have to get in 45 to 60 days, and they don't mind waiting up to 6 months, that they're going to get fantastic homes where maybe even if they put in a little bit of money, they're going to have the home of their dream, especially if they've got the money to do so. And all you really need at this point now is 3% down because of the FHA loans, although many I see that are buying